On today's episode, we sit down with Carlos Fernandez, young adults pastor with Cross Point City Church here in Cartersville, Georgia. We're going to talk about faith, money, finance, and everything in between. Stay tuned. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today with Beyond Tomorrow, here with Andrew Nida, as always. And today we have a special guest, Carlos Fernandez. How's it going, brother?
What's up, man?
Yeah, good to see you. Seeing you. Carlos, for most of you, most of our listeners are kind of surrounded here in Cartersville, Georgia. But for those who don't know who Carlos is, he's a young adults pastor with Cross Point City Church. And today it's a great time for us to, at least for Andrew and I, to talk about faith, money, finances, and everything in between, and doing it the right way. Actually, for our firm, 2 weeks ago, we actually had our first ever huge client event, and the theme of the event was Night of Gratitude. And we wanted to show our clients how thankful we are for them trusting us to be part of their financial journey as their financial advisors. And so we took an entire night. We did it at the Telus Museum, and it wasn't about money. It was beyond the money. Yeah. It was a true celebration of thank you. And the reason why I say it's a good time for us to talk about to bring you on today is because as Andrew and I were talking about what the theme of the event would be, gratitude came to mind, and it was also one of the series that James preached not too long ago about being grateful and being just being grateful about all of your circumstances, not just financially, but just in life in general. Mm-hmm. And so I thought today, to kind of start off the conversation of, but before I get started into just jumping right in, just tell the audience a little bit about you, your journey, how'd you get to Cartersville, and even your walk in faith.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was just talking to Andrew about it before we started. My name is Carlos Fernandez. I'm the young adult pastor at Cross Point City Church. I've been there about to be 4 years, coming in August. And I've been in ministry for about 13 years.
Feels like a lifetime.
Yeah. I actually started working at a church when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
In the rec department at McEachern UMC. And then I went to the Marines. I came back, and somebody offered me a job to be a youth pastor here in Cartersville off of Grassdale Road. I was there for 5 years. Then I went back to McEachern to be their youth pastor and missions pastor. And then I got linked up with Crosspoint, and so I've been here for ever since then. So it's been really good. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I got a daughter at home, Sayla Grace. My wife is Kara.
Okay.
We've been married about to be 3 years. My daughter's 8 months old, so she's waking up in the middle of the night. She's crying. She's laughing at the oddest times, and so yeah, that's my life.
Tell me about that transition from Marines to being a pastor. How'd that go?
I guess it was just God. It definitely was God. I remember when I decided to go to the Marines, it was me and 10 other friends that we went in a span of a year.
You had 10 friends that wanted to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I went with 2 of my best friends from high school, and I thought it was going to be what I was going to do for 20 years. Like, I thought I was going to be a career Marine. And but I was always working in church, and when I got back, I was in the reserves. And I became an intern at McEachern for students. And I was like running the games. I would speak a little bit. I would do a little bit of leadership stuff. And that's when I got the call to be a youth pastor at a church. And I thought they were crazy because I was like, man, I didn't even read the entire Bible yet. Like, I was like, I don't know anything. Y'all must be tripping or very desperate.
So, one or the other.
And I just remember like one of the ladies that was interviewing me, she said, I really think you're the guy, and I know that you're going to work hard. And that's exactly what happened. When I remember sitting down at my first meeting for youth group, I had one kid in front of me, and I was just talking to him about Jesus, and it was like the best thing ever. And then a couple months later down the road, I figured out like, hey, I think I want to do this like full time. And I just said, I know that I just need to learn. So that's what kind of sparked my journey in school. And I changed my major. I went to a Christian school, got a bachelor's in Christian ministry, and it actually became easy to me, like school. And I was a terrible student because that's why I went to the Marines, because I didn't have anything that I was going to do. I was working at a gas station and a warehouse, and all of my friends, like, we were just doing these dead-end jobs. And then that's when we joined the Marines and whatnot. And for me to go to college, it was like a dream, because and it was like sparked because I wanted to learn more about Jesus. And now I'm sitting here with, like, two master's degree and a bachelor's degree, and it's all because of God, But it was just Him opening doors every way throughout my journey. And so it's been kind of cool just to let God do what He's doing and just keep walking through the doors He's opening.
There goes them doors.
Yeah.
We've been in a crazy, like, start of the year season for us, but that's been the theme. It's like Amy and I we just been praying, Lord, open the door, close the door. Not really praying for anything specific at the end of the day, what we want to have happen or what we need to have happen. Just, if it's supposed to happen, just open the door, close the door. And when you stay there and you stay in the Word, it is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How much comfort you have, even when the door that you think you want to go through gets shut, the peace that's still there, knowing that must have been the right thing, for you and for your future.
Yeah.
It's been a good start, those doors. But
yeah.
How was it like going into the Marines? I'm assuming you were a follower already.
Yeah.
So what's that like? Is the battle tough? Just being around other guys, obviously different culture, different background.
Yes and no. So in boot camp, they allow you to go to church on Sunday, and it's one of the best days ever. Like, even before we went to boot camp, like, they would tell us go to church, because it was just like you had a little bit more freedom. You were treated as a Marine when you went to church when you were in boot camp. So that was like an easy way to do that. And also, just being a Christian, you would stand out. Because we're kids going into boot camp, right? There'll be some guys that are 25, 26, but most of us are 18, 19 years old. And so going in with the hope that we have, with the wisdom that we've learned through the years, you're already different. Like, I was a leader going in. And so I just stood out the whole time. Even just reading my Bible when I was in boot camp and praying, I was a little bit different. So I obviously matured a lot throughout boot camp, because I was still like a knucklehead when I was there. But I would say it was hard at times, but it was just pockets of surrender. That's the theme of my life. Like, I remember when we were already Marines, we graduated, we were at MOS school, and everybody was drinking in the barracks, and you're not supposed to drink in the barracks. And I remember that was a day that I kind of surrendered, trying to be cool. Like, we were in we were in one of the rooms, and we were all just drinking, and I just remember, like, hey, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do this stuff. And I remember putting my drink down, walking out, and nobody noticed. Me going to my room and just telling God, this is not what I want, and so I'm going to surrender this. And then so it was just pockets of surrender, learning how to be countercultural, right? To be the minority in the majority. And it was just like God was just teaching me how to become a man, really, and a leader who kind of just sticks out, but doesn't stick out for the wrong reason, sticks out because he's just following God. And just learning that over time. And so I made a lot of mistakes, but God was
that
with
is
me,
the key, though.
Yeah.
That is something you have to learn. I feel like there's that season, you just get into a place where you're comfortable enough and you're learning enough to put, just ultimately to put the Lord first out of your own desires and your own worries about being popular or whatever it may be, and being able to say, what am I doing here? I got to grow up, be different.
Yeah, I love what you said, the pockets of surrender, right? Because I think some have challenges with the word surrender, and not understanding like what that actually means, and really, what do I surrender? Like, how does it look like surrendering my entire life to Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
But when I hear pockets of surrender, you may have those that, in that stage or stages of surrendering can come in different pockets, right? So for you, it was this drinking thing. I don't really want to be here at this moment, right? And so for some, it could be finances, right? There is, I think some people hold money as an idol, whether they realize it or not.
Oh, yeah.
They put a lot of hope and faith in just a dollar amount, whatever the bank account says, or whatever idea they have in their head, that it allows them to not maybe tithe, allow them to not give as much as they want to. But instead of trying to surrender everything all at once, maybe it is that small pocket to just surrender and slowly get to a point where you're surrendering every part of your life.
Yeah.
So I love when you said pockets of surrender. That's great. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, that was good. There's also pockets of chaos. That's what I always tell my wife. I'm like, you open up a drawer, the house is clean, it's perfect. You open up one drawer and you're like, yeah, there it is.
There it is.
Pockets of chaos, you know. It's got everything in it. But I have to give you a shout out too for working with young adults. So Amy and I told you, we have I have a 16-year-old as my oldest. I got 3 boys. And so when we were married, I was 20 when we got married. And Derek and Sheila Bagley, which are like godparents to me, right? They grew up, I grew up around them, their kids, my family. And they became like our mentors, and they started a small group, young adults. Well, and we were married couples. There was 5 of us. We stayed in that small group every single week for almost a decade.
Wow.
By the time, we were all getting married to begin with. And by the time we stopped doing it, there must have been 12, 13, 14 kids.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But, just having that mentorship, having someone there, really just, investing, into some of the, what they are, they're the foundation, of your marriage and life and everything else, But man, it's good work.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man.
Need it.
I'm not gonna lie, like I love it. It was actually my dream job before. I remember applying to a church and they actually not even taking my resume because I didn't have a seminary degree. So it kind of worked out where I got it at Crosspoint because I think they were offering me, or they gave me 2 opportunities, and I was like, man, college pastor, young adult pastor, that's exactly what I want to do. But a lot of churches don't have that. Like this is I would say like a luxury position at churches. We kind of forget about the 20s, and they're just like out there, lost in the sauce. So it's been a blessing and to see. And also, man, like our generation or that generation is really hungry for the Word of God and just to pursue Jesus. And so I'm so glad that our church has invested in that generation. So yeah.
When it comes to like finances and having a biblical foundation, in your experience, are you seeing, what challenges are you seeing with like young adults with respects to their ability to manage their finances in the quote unquote right way?
Yeah, I would say all over the place, man. Some people are great with money. Yeah. Some people are awful with money. I would say like for me, I started off terrible, right? I'm still learning how to manage money. But when I look at the life of a young adult right now, it's just all over the place. Some have had great examples, like from their parents and from their families, and then some others have just seen examples of people just squandering everything that they've been given. And so it's just all over the place. I think when it comes to money, I feel like we're always training people from the ground, right? From the ground up. And so it's just kind of helping them understand what money is and how to use it and how to leverage it for the glory of God. And also it could be a train wreck when we begin to talk about it because money is so close to our hearts, right? Yeah. Like what's the quote that James always uses? He says your wallet, something about your wallet and your heart and stuff like that. But I just see that it's always, everybody's different from where they're at. So I haven't seen a group of people all come from the same page, like they're all on the same page when it comes to money. So I feel like when we sit down and when we're talking about giving and tithing, they all have a different understanding because also the church has not handled money really well over the years. Some churches are terrible. They just want people to give, and there's really no spiritual thing behind it, or explaining it, or teaching, or discipleship behind it. They're just saying you got to give, and that's why I love our church because we're saying, hey, you're giving for the mission, right? You're giving to say that, hey, the enemy doesn't have a hold in my life, right? This isn't an idol. This is going to be a tool that I use for the kingdom of God, right? Regardless of how much I have or how little I have, I'm going to use it. And so for young adults, it's just been all over the place. Like every time I've sat down with a couple people to talk about budgeting and whatnot, and it just seems like they're all at different starting points.
Yeah. And it's not just the church. It's the church, it's the family, it's the school system. Our educational system, it's so frustrating when it comes to the topic of of money.
Right.
And, because we teach so many different things, and so many different things that I know were important to some people, so I don't want to say they're not. But, for the general public, it's just not a tool necessary, at least as a priority, in my opinion, over managing money and how to view money. And so you're right. I mean, there is no, in my opinion, there's no fair expectation to have, at someone coming out of high school, going into college, or even coming out of college, because, nobody's taught them. Matter of fact, this was a reel that I saw. Okay, great education here. So, but anyway, I thought it was brilliant. And the gentleman was saying that he was bringing up a topic that in Scripture where it talks about your son or your child would leave and cleave. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of emphasizing, now whether or not this was what Scripture meant, but he was emphasizing on the concept that they should leave when they cleave type of thing. And instead of this culture that we have here in America where it's this idea that when you turn 18, to be a man, you got to get out of my house. Yeah. Right? And so he poses a lot of these questions, and I'm like, and that's kind of the thought process I had. I got 3 boys. You turn 18, you got 90 days. And I have my boys trained saying this too, by the way. It's dumb. But you had 90 days. Go to college, go to the military, or get a job. But you can't stay in my house and do nothing. Yeah. Right? And what he was saying is that, hey, when they turn 18, what do they now all of a sudden know that makes them full adults? Have they ever had a job? Have they ever got a paycheck? Have they ever went in debt? Have they ever bought a house? Have they ever went to school? there's still so many things that no one's trained them on. Yeah. So quit, don't rush them. And other cultures don't do that. But America, we have this this idea that to be a man, you got to get out. Yeah. Which in some aspects, I think that makes sense. But, there's still a lot they don't know.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, the 18 or 21, depending on the age. Yeah, it's the age of majority. But it's not necessarily an age of wisdom that just naturally the light bulb just hits at that point, right? Yeah. Maybe at that age, it's time to really. It may be too late, right? But it's probably maybe the right time to really sit down and start transitioning them into manhood or womanhood, right? Without having to just say, now it's time for you to venture on your own. Yeah. Right? Because I think James mentioned the other day that it's hard to parent adult kids, right? Because you move from a parent to maybe more of like a counselor or like a coach, right? So maybe that transition is, now let me just coach you on life. And let's sit down and actually, I'm going to show you what life really looks like. And in today's conversation about money, I'll show you what money looks like and how to manage money. And you wanted to talk about gratitude, right? And I think one of the things that I think some people find hard to really be content with is with the resources that they actually have, and be grateful for everything that they have, and not compare themselves to anyone else or compare themselves to even an image that they thought they would be. It's let's sit back and just be grateful and thankful for what we currently have right now, and God will bless us, right? But He probably won't bless us if we're always complaining about where we are in our circumstances. Yeah,
no, that's good. Something you said earlier would be, or what you said, Andrew, was that I wanted to touch base on would be that that's why discipleship is so important. When kids are getting older, it's not the time to say, oh man, I gotta go, I gotta teach them everything before they leave the house. It should have been a lifelong journey with them of discipling them in all these areas. And being grateful, that actually should start when they're little. And when we think about just giving, I think giving and generosity and being grateful, they're all tied together, right? You give because you feel like God has given you so much. And so you want to do an outpouring of that, regardless of how much you have or how little you have. I love the story in the gospel where Jesus says that everyone will know about what this woman did when she came and she anointed him with oil, right? And everybody was so mad, and it's like, man, they could have, gave money to the poor or provided things like that. And he was like, no. She did exactly what she was supposed to do, and she literally gave everything she had, and it was just like a cool thing. But also the person who went in and they gave a little bit, and everybody else gave so much, and Jesus like, hey, this person is going to be remembered. And so I feel like when we think about gratitude and we think about generosity, they're so tied together, and that's something that we need to disciple people to see. Like, Jesus has done so much for us that the things that we have, we're grateful to have them because we remember that Jesus really paid the ultimate price for us on the cross.
Right.
That without him, there's no way that we would have life. And because of that understanding, I can give of all of my resources, my time, my money, the things that I have, because of what Jesus has done. So it always goes back to that. But it's really hard because a lot of people are not discipled in that way. You know,
this is, I'll be a little transparent here because this is something Amy and I literally, matter of fact, we talked about it after we got out of church Sunday, after you spoke. And the whole discipling, what I was thinking when you were preaching and I was taking notes, and for whatever reason, it was just on my mind, the conversation became, at what point, like, because we have our oldest turning 16, now that he's able to drive, he's able to do things that we have always done. And so the initial, like, few months into this was, okay, now we have more freedom in our marriage. We can go, on more date nights. We can leave and go on date breakfasts or coffee, right? We can get away. We can start, going on some couples trips. And so, this was the conversation that Amy and I had is the thought right in that because our son has reached this mark that we now can experience more freedom instead of embracing more discipleship. And so, because we've gotten in this habit over the last few months, both of us are leaving the house. Yeah. I'm coming to work early. She's out. We're leaving the other two boys with Drew, and Drew's responsible to get them up, which I think is not a bad thing. But it's like, that used to be the time of discipleship. And we're using it now for our own selfish freedom, if you will. I don't know. It was just a thought we had, and we started talking about it. But,
You transferring your responsibilities over to Drew?
Yeah. Like, hey, man, let's go. Me and Mama got some more time together.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, to your point, it's, okay, well, at 16, at 17, at 18, the clock is ticking, right? Obviously, we should have done it years ago, and we have. But now there's things that they still need to be taught that they haven't been mature enough maybe to learn at a younger age. Yeah. So the discipleship can't just stop.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a form of discipleship. If you think about it, don't. From what you're just saying right now, I wouldn't go too far off the edge, right? But now he's learning to get up early. He's responsible for two other people in some areas, right? I mean, that will lead him.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, think about it. If he follows your footsteps, you were married at 20. So that's 4 years away from him.
Oh, you better get going. Yeah, you better get going.
Yeah,
for real.
So, but yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, the journey should start from the beginning, right? When we have our kids, and I think first in our world, when we talk to our clients about passing on the wealth to the next generation, some have trepidation on that because you may have one child that is they're on it,
yeah,
right? I mean, they know how to handle money properly, right? And I'll put air quotes around the word properly too. But then you may have another child that is completely opposite. And there is a fear for some to how to transfer that wealth over to the next generation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's if the principles aren't done in the beginning, then it's hard to be confident that the next generation is going to bode well with it.
Yeah.
Because we are told to leave an inheritance for not just our children, but for our grandchildren and for the generation after that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's very important. And that's why we need to teach our kids how to handle money, how to use it properly, how it's a tool and not a god. And that's why I love the proverb that I remember in seminary we wrote a paper on, is this a promise or a principle? Like, train up a child on the way it should go and they shall not depart from it. And it's a principle. It's not a promise that this will happen, but it's a principle that we have to live by. Like, hey, if you train them up, they won't depart from it. And so training them up in all of these areas, in finances, right, it's very important. So, like, I remember when I was in student ministry, I would always tell parents, that I would count down the Sundays that they would have, right? And when I would talk to middle school parents, I'd say, "Hey, you have this amount of
I know,
Sundays."
that's sad.
I've heard,
Thanks.
Yeah, until they go to college, right? And then the world becomes kind of a lead mentor of theirs. Like you don't know who they're talking to, you don't know who's pouring into them because they're off in college. And so you just have to be intentional to make sure that you train them up on the way they should go. So when they are faced with something else, they always go back to the foundation that you've laid, right? And so for me, when it comes to finances, I would say that in my household, my mom was very generous. She would always give of her resources. She didn't make a lot, but she never sat me down and actually trained me, right? And told me, hey, this is the way you do it. This is the way you invest. And so I had to take that upon myself to read and to learn and to take classes and whatnot. But once I learned it and I could see past like a certain time in my life. So I could see myself at 40, at 50, at 60. That's when I started to say, oh, I really need to start to work on these things. And I think that the world wants us to keep our eyes on just today and not worry about tomorrow. Dave Ramsey uses this proverb. He says, a prudent person sees danger coming and hides behind a rock, but a fool keeps on going. And that is just a biblical mindset, a wise mindset compared to the fool, which I would say the world kind of promotes. He said, hey, YOLO, you only live once, live for today, don't worry about tomorrow, like do all those things. And I just think that's not a wise way to look at it. Especially when it comes to money, if you want to give people, if you want to pass the baton off well. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just a lot when it comes to when we actually start talking about discipling, and even when it's just finance, it's a lot to learn. So.
Yeah, and the wisdom's, to me, it's required so much more than I mean, just the life, the way it is right now. Everything's so darn expensive, and and these kids, they're graduating and they have so much, facing them. The cost of education, the cost of trying to get on your own feet, the cost of having a family. It's just different. Matter of fact, we work with a lot of wealthy people. And what I've noticed is, yes, it's a lot of people that have worked really hard. A lot of it's just good timing.
Yeah.
It's just they got into the industry at the right time. They got the job at the right time. They caught the market at the right time. It's just, and I'm not taking away from their skill set, but that's a lot of it. You look at like even when we started this company, it was post or right after, the residential crisis in 2008. And, we had a good foundation to build before we faced, Brexit in 2000 and COVID and everything else. But it's just different today. It's hard for these kids to get ahead. And so I think you're right, getting that foundation and the fundamentals in place. But the correct view of money, to me, the whole conversation about gratitude, and when we had this event, it's like, how do you talk about gratitude in front of a bunch of people? We had 200 plus people there that are filthy wealthy, And so Mo and I were just kind of talking about it. And it's like, gratitude is so not about what you have. And so we were talking about a book that I had just finished. I think you just started it recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, with A.W. Tozer, The Pursuit of God. And there was a chapter there where he's breaking down this verse about, oh gosh, I'm going to mess this up. It was poor in spirit. And he uses this example of basically extracting, going through the work of extracting all of these desires of your heart to the point that he compares you to a beggar on the street. And he's like, this is where you need to be. Because when you wake up every day as a beggar on the street, then your whole day in life is dependent on someone else providing for you. And so when I was reading that and I was thinking about gratitude, I'm like, to really have appreciation for all things in life, you got to have appreciation for that which gave you life.
Yeah.
And so to do that, maybe that's it. Maybe you got to go through that effort of like extracting, like he's talking about in his book, to where you wake up every day, your feet hit the ground. You're like, I'm not thankful because of all that I have and what I've done to get it. I'm thankful just because I'm here and I didn't choose to be here, born here, like Pastor James talks about, in this country, didn't choose to be born here, the opportunity and just the fact that God, has continued to, give me chance and opportunity when I didn't deserve it.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that's a mindset that needs to be you need to be trained up in that mindset.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't happen on your own. Like that needs to be a constant reminder of letting people know that you're here because of God, not because of your hard work or what you've done. It's because He put you here. So.
Do you have any suggestions on how someone could practically practice the mindset of gratitude?
Yeah, I mean, just give, and learning how to be grateful in the little things helps you to be grateful in the big things. But just seeing that God is giving you a unique opportunity in a unique time to practice gratitude would be my thing. But just understand the closer you get to Jesus, the easier it is, right? Like I would always go back, like just continue to spend time with the Lord in the secret place, and that will create in you a grateful heart, and it might be a little bit in the beginning. Like I remember when I started to give to the church, and it was out of a grateful heart, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't making much. I was making, I don't know, like $20K maybe a year, and I was like, man, this is a lot for me to try to give 10%. But then I was starting to realize, like, but I'm grateful I'm here. Like I'm grateful that I have my job and all these things. And then as I started to give from my little, right, when I became, I don't make a crazy amount now, but I make a decent living. I started to give more, and it's because I'm grateful that God has put me in these places. And that's just an exercise. I would say giving allows you to exercise something that a lot of people don't talk about. It allows you to tell the world, to tell the enemy, and to tell yourself that God is the thing that you're going to get everything from, not from your bank account, not from your investments, not from anything else. And so when you give and when you're grateful and when you practice gratitude and generosity, you're telling those three people, the world, the enemy, and yourself, that this doesn't have a hold on you, this isn't your king, and that you're grateful for everything God has given to you. And on top of that, I mean, we're stewards, right?
I was going to say that.
None of it's ours in the first place. We are here to steward it well. And so I would say just learning how to have a grateful heart in the little things and in the big things, and practicing gratitude.
Yeah, I was going to say it's that mentality of being a stewardship versus ownership.
Yeah.
Right. Who actually owns your wealth, your possessions, right? It's God. God owns everything above us and on this earth. And if you understand that you're just temporarily possessing God's assets.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be doing the proper things with it. And if you understand that, then you're right. I mean, it becomes a little easier when you have that mindset that what's given to you can be taken away from you.
Yeah.
All right.
But it takes a lot of that like self-audit to stay there, you know, because it's like you get there and then so easily do you find yourself start, becoming selfish or prideful or whatever. Like it happens, so naturally. I find myself doing that, and I'm like, you got to let it go. But I want to read you this verse. This was something a buddy of mine sent me this past week, and I thought it was interesting. I just want your perspective on it, all right? So this is kind of like about gratitude, and I'll explain what kind of stood out to me. But it says, "This is what I have observed to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them. For this is their lot." And this is what stood out. "Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possession and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift of God." And to me, what was like immediately when he sent me this, he's a good friend of mine and worship leader, but also owns he's very successful, owns an incredible company. And when he sent me that, I thought, I just text back in quotations, he gives you the ability to enjoy it. Because I'm like, man, you're right. You got a business, you start growing, you start getting things, you start buying real estate, or you just continue. But it's like, man, most of it just creates a lot of stress.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, that was key to me. So what's your thoughts about is the ability, I guess it is, the ability to enjoy it a gift, and is that contingent on what?
The ability to enjoy life, I think it is a gift. Like understanding the gift of what life is already. That I think that's just a gift from God to not be stressed out about it. But also that I think it requires the right mindset. And I think that God gives you that peace when you understand who He is and what He's put you on earth to do. And allows you to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You've worked hard, you've been consistent, you've been connected to Him. I think He allows you to enjoy that, but also learning how to use the gift God has given you, right? Whether it's wealth or talent or resources or whatever. Using those is learning how to enjoy it too. Like learning how to let go and to give and to just to be in. To use your life for God's glory in every circumstance, in every season, I think that's enjoying life. And so, if God's giving you a lot and learning how to enjoy it, but enjoying it the right way. It's not, going off in a vacation every, couple weeks and stuff like that. No, it's being a part of His kingdom. It's serving, it's giving, it's discipling. He said, like, that's how you enjoy the wealth that you have. And I would say also just being a good role model and mentor. There's a guy, I know he's loaded, right? Just the way he talks, but he's such a great role model because he's enjoying life because of the way he lives, right?
Right.
This dude is always he's going on missions, man. He's always giving of his resources, of his money, and God keeps blessing him. But I can just see him that he's enjoying life because he's taking what God has given him and then he's using it for His kingdom. And he always, I remember him telling me, we were on the phone a couple of days ago, and he's like, yeah, man, God gave me all of this, and I think that my job is just to be a resourcer, right? Just to resource people. And he does it, man, with a grateful heart. Like, he's so excited to fund the kingdom. And I just think about it. Like, if you have all this money, you can keep storing it up, you can keep buying more property, keep, packing your investments, or you can use everything God has given you, continue to build your business, but also continue to build His kingdom, through the gifts and the resources and the talent that He has given you. And I think that's when you start to enjoy life.
That's right.
That's when you can start connecting it. It's like, oh, this is why I was here, And usually those guys go under the radar because they have these big businesses, but no one knows, and they're just in the crowd,
right?
And they can make a difference. And then when they get to heaven, God's gonna be like, "I saw that." I saw that.
You built your treasure here.
I mean, that's a great place to be, and I think most people want to get there.
Yeah.
Right. I guess I would say anyone who's a follower of Christ wants to get to that point. They just need discipline, maybe a right mindset, accountability partners, right. And the Word, right, to really just guide them in the right direction. You get all, you get all four of those together, then you are on the right path. And you may slip up across the time, right? No one's perfect, but at least if your mindset is on the right place, that's why we call the name of the show, the name of this podcast, and this channel Beyond Tomorrow, because it's the life that you want in the future is based off of decisions you make today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be a generous person at some point in your life, then start making those decisions today, even if it is giving to a small amount, even if it is fostering a child or a family, right? Even if it is serving, doing mission trips, right? The decisions you make today will lead you to that generosity, that generous life in the future.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So we usually like to wrap up the episode with kind of like, what are you doing today to make you a better person in the future? What are some of the small things you're doing, or even big things you're doing today to make Carlos how old are you now?
33.
I ain't seen him at Burn Boot Camp.
Yeah.
I ain't seen him there.
So
12 o'clock.
So what are you doing today for 33? So what are you doing today for 45-year-old Carlos?
Yeah, I'm trying to build disciplines, right? Definitely want to make my time with God a priority. I just became a father 8 months ago. I'm trying to build these disciplines where my daughter can catch me, just worshiping God, drawing close to Him. I read a book called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, and the daughters who were impacted by their dad always caught them in the act of doing something heroic or good, or just saw them in their discipline. And there was this one girl that was talking in the book, she said that the reason why she wanted to be like a missionary is because she always saw her dad be missional, right? And it was just like this. It was like, man, like what a great thing to say, that because you witness your dad, you want to go do this, right? And she never, like, and the counselor was asking her, like, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? And then she found it's because of my dad. And so what I'm trying to do now is try to get those things in order in my life. Like I want to wake up early. I want to read the Bible. I want to pray. I want to give generously. I want to be wise, and I know that requires me to do that today. And I mean, obviously, I came from a single parent household, so there's a lot of things that I'm learning on how to be a dad. So I'm always trying to learn as much as I can to be good. And then when it comes to finances, man, I'm just trying to make good decisions today, so that tomorrow it could impact my daughter. And since I don't make a lot, right? I work in ministry. You don't go into ministry to make a lot of money. But I learned early on, it's not how much you make, but it's how you manage what you have, right? And so just learning how to be wise. I mean, I've read so many finance books, just trying to steward what I have really well. One of my favorite books was How to Be Rich. It was by Andy Stanley. I know he's kind of tripping now, so don't I don't condone everything he's doing. But he gave a great structure for a budget. Give, save, live, right? I think I added invest in there. So give, invest, save, and live. There was a good book by J.L. Collins, Simple Path to Wealth, and he just broke down everything. I'm talking about 401k, IRA, Roth, I mean, health savings account, and he taught you so much about those things. So I would say what I'm trying to do now is learn as much as I can, so that when I am 45, I've put into place everything that I've learned, right? And it's little by little. And so I would say, like, I'm just trying to build those disciplines, whether it's, waking up early and reading and praying, or giving or serving or investing and saving. Like, I'm trying to do those things now. And then I want my family to catch me in the act, of doing those things. And so
I'm still in that.
Yeah.
I want them to catch me in my discipline.
Yeah.
That's good.
I love that.
It is so true, man. That's, growing up with my father and my mother, but my dad, the way he was, that's what happened all the time. You would catch him in his discipline. Maybe not eating and physical, but when it comes, just all the time.
Yeah.
He's sitting in that recliner, which, all of us kids want now.
Yeah.
But he's sitting in that recliner with his Bible open all the time.
Yeah.
Reading. He was present. He was always talking about the Lord, and he was so mission minded. I mean, the guy just loved people.
Yeah.
And so, you're right. That goes.
Yeah.
I am, my desire to be like that is all because of what I watched and seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 100%, man.
Yeah, man. I like my kids watching me take notes in church. Right. They know I'm actually absorbing it. And then what I've been doing recently is as I journal, if I think I've wrote a good journal they can all process, I send it to them so they can read it.
Yeah.
I want them to know that I'm going through it the same way they're going through it. I might have different challenges than they do, but I want them to know that I'm taking it seriously. I'm taking my faith seriously.
Yeah.
And I want them to see what I'm struggling with, right? So they know that, this is a lifelong journey, and they can see exactly what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So, I love that.
Yeah. I think there's a quote that I love. I mean, James says it all the time. I don't think it's original to him, but and he would say that too. But leadership is often caught, not taught.
Yeah, I've heard him say that.
And it's just a good quote to understand, like, what our kids are going to do or what they catch us doing.
That's scary.
And but it's a good thing too, because there's obviously they're gonna get the bad and the good.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool, like, that you can impress on your kids, like, because they're watching, like you, like your dad just sitting on the couch reading the word, like, that's what you remember. And I was like, man, that's what I want my kids to remember, because I remember my mom when I caught her. I think I got in trouble, and she hid my Nintendo 64, which I was very frustrated. And so I was looking for it, and next thing you know, I open up the closet, and she's praying in the closet. So I mean, it just marked me from that day that she was interceding, probably for me, because she was probably frustrated with me.
Right.
And that has marked me for the rest of my life. And I was like, man, I want my daughter to catch me in those acts and
awesome.
disciplines, you know. So that's
Well,
good.
if you want her to catch you in the middle of Burn, you can come at 12 o'clock today. Burn boot camp.
Burn boot camp.
Yeah,
We'll
I
be
heard-
there.
Me and Mo and a bunch of mamas. That's it. That's
a
it.
bunch of mamas.
And daycare. I'm like, we should just do daycare. We should just go there,
Yeah.
watch the babies.
Yeah. Maybe. I've heard some good things about Burn Boot Camp.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
they'll be your first sponsor.
Yeah. Right.
Shout out to Burn Boot Camp.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, Carlos, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you again
absolutely,
for your
for
time.
sure.
Really appreciate it. And thank you all for watching, and you'll see us next week. Take care.